Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started now. Am I too loud for you guys? Because I feel like I'm very loud, but no? Okay. All right, so my name is Stephanie Jauregui, as you probably guessed. If you thought I was Thomas, sorry. Yeah. But I'm the regional judge advisor for Central Valley Robotics. So that means that I do all of the judging stuff. Now, I don't actually make the decisions. All I do is I coordinate all of the judges. They make all of the decisions. So if you're angry at me for something, like your team didn't win, that's not me. No, just kidding. You can come to me for any questions regarding any type of judging, okay? Helping me will be Thomas Bayhi. He will maybe join momentarily. He's out talking to, I'm not actually sure, but he's presenting something important right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Okay, so how many of you are rookie judges or rookie coaches? Let's get a raise of hand really quick. Okay, cool. Okay, so then judging is, okay, I'm going to be totally biased. It's the most important part of FLL. Okay. So I say this because everybody thinks, oh, the robot's important. The robot is the top priority. Wrong. Completely wrong. Okay. The robot is half of what you do, but the other half is judging. Okay. So I just really want to stress that because a lot of people don't take it as seriously as they probably should their first year, and that's just because they're like, oh, it's a robotics competition. It's about the robot. But no, there's also judging. Okay. So it's the presentation component. And it decides who advances to the championship event, who advances out of the qualifying tournaments, okay? And all judging is based on Rubric. So we do have a system in place for our judges to help them evaluate which teams are more worthy of advancement than others just based on merit and technical ability. So it's not like completely unguided. There's a little bit of guidance for that, okay? The judging sessions will vary on what the topic is. So for the most part, you will have a 5-minute section during your 10-minute session that is just devoted to your team presenting what they did. Okay, so now for a project, that will be presenting their presentation. Okay, for core values, that will be doing a core values activity. Now, robot design is judged a little bit differently, because sometimes you get like the 5 minutes, the rigid 5 minutes showing the robot and then 5 minutes asking questions. But sometimes you get judges that like to kind of mix it up a little bit, and they will ask the kids questions as they are presenting their robots. So in general, you will get that, but sometimes you will get it where it's like happening at the same time. So do prepare your kids for both scenarios. That's kind of just based on the nature of robot design, because, you know, there's a lot of cool attributes to the robot. You can't do like a rigid 5 minutes a lot of the time. Sometimes the kids like want to keep showing you something, or they want to keep running a mission model. So prepare your kids for that. All of your judging sessions on the event day will be one right after the other, and that is just to simplify it for you guys, because what we'll do is we'll have all of the rooms clustered together, and you go from one room to the next room to the next room. So do know that, so don't miss your judging block, because then we have to reschedule everything and it gets very chaotic. So make sure that you are planning your day around your judging block as soon as you figure that out. Okay, so as I touched on before, there are 3 different things that we judge your teams on. The first is project. Now, the project focuses on the research component of the FLL program. Okay, so your children are tasked to find a problem, innovate a solution, and share it. 3 different components. We will go into that deeper in judging deep dive. Now, I should mention that the project is super important. Okay, because if you do not complete a project, you're not eligible for any awards. Okay, so finish the project, make sure that you hit the 3 points, that you have identified a problem, okay, that you have come up with an innovative solution, and that you have shared it within the community. Those are the 3 things that you have to have answered. So you should ask your kids those 3 questions, and if you can answer those, then you're probably good. But if you miss one of those 3 targets, then you have an incomplete project and you are not eligible for awards. Okay. Then we have robot design. Now, robot design covers what your kids designed for the game. Okay. And it's just them sharing what they've designed. It's really the easiest part of the judging, in my opinion, because the kids will naturally know about their robot because they built it and they love talking about it because they get really animated, they get excited, they like to share what was creative about it, what worked, what didn't work. So this one would be very, very, very easy for most teams to do. Just make sure that they can share how they are. Oh, Thomas has joined us.
Oh, is this thing on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here. Also, for the robot design session, one thing that we wanted to add for people who have coached before, the robot design executive summary is no longer part of the robot design judging session. So the only thing that you're responsible to bring for that is your robot and the sample program. So just want to make sure we reiterate that as much as possible today, that robot design executive summary is no longer going to be part of the robot design session.
Which is good, because it was kind of extra work, so you guys don't have to do that anymore. It's good. So that covers robot design. It just focuses on the robot's design. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, core values is where we will have a core values activity for your kids to do, and the judges will watch them and see how they interact with each other, okay? I will tell you the secret that we tell everybody, okay? That is, we don't care how your kids finish the project. Like, if the core values activity is to build a robot out of pennies, if they make a giraffe, that is totally okay, as long as they are using their core values, okay? So we don't care how it gets completed. We care about the method through which it gets completed. Like, are they being nice to each other? Are they respecting each other? Are they employing the core values from FLL in what they do? Okay, so that's what they're looking out for.
Also with core values, I just like to stress with that one, core values doesn't begin and end with the judging session. The judges are aware of what's going on at the event, and the volunteers are all really paying attention to the way teams interact with other volunteers, with other teams, with referees. And a big part of the core values is how the team is conducting themselves and how they're using those core values when they're just going around the event.
Yeah, we're very, very, very diligent in keeping an eye on all of the teams at all times, especially for core values violations. Now, it's not often that we have to disqualify a team because of a core values violation, but we want to make that 0. So just make sure that your teams know that they are on their A game at all times. If they think nobody's watching, we're watching. We're pretty good at that.
And for all those people that have parents that like to come to the events, anybody that is wearing a team shirt runs the risk of being considered part of the team. So you want to make sure the parents are having their best core values as well if they're going to have the team shirt on.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any questions on that so far? On the 3 topics? No? Oh, go ahead. The research project is the trash check project. So yes, the project is the one that is specifically related to the challenge theme. Yes. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay, so now we talked about the rubrics that the judges use a couple minutes ago. So let's just go through the different rubrics. Now these are available on our website, but a lot of the coaches, I should say, don't utilize this enough. Okay, we provide you exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so let's go through section by section. We are looking at the core values rubric. This is the first section. Okay, and it's entitled Inspiration. Okay, and we want, for this section, we want to look for a balanced emphasis on the 3 aspects of FLL. That's robot, project, and core values, because FLL is not about winning awards, it's about being a well-rounded team. Okay. In all of the rubrics, we have 4 categories: beginning, developing, accomplished, and exemplary. Now, I should note that all judging is subjective. So what the judges see that day is what they mark. You notice that there are no scores here. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. So a team with all exemplaries is not necessarily going to be the best team. They may just have scored really well. And like for example, we may see a team that is not able to present as well. Maybe like their kids are shy or more reserved and they just are not as great public speakers. But they're a stellar team. So maybe they don't get the highest marks on the rubrics. But the judges are like, no, this team blows everybody out of the water. They just have hearts of gold. Then we're going to give the award to that team, not the team that got all exemplaries. Does that kind of make sense? Okay.
Another really important thing about the rubrics that everybody should know, because we get a lot of questions about this, the rubric is the only feedback that coaches will get from the judging sessions. So after the event, the rubrics will be scanned and uploaded, and you'll be able to see the judges' comments and how they felt the team ranked. That's the only feedback that you're going to get from the judging sessions. So it's really important to take these as a tool to kind of figure out how you can move forward into the either the championship tournament or the events next year and get yourself into that exemplary category. That's kind of why the judges fill out the rubrics, is that's what you're going to get back from the judging sessions to see how the team performed.
Yeah. So we have, for the first section, again, we're covering inspiration. So that covers discovery, so what the team is balancing their efforts on. Okay, we want a very well-rounded team. Team spirit. Are the kids enthusiastic, or are they kind of just like, are they friendly? Do they have a unified team identity? Okay, and then the last section in this subsection is integration. So how are they using the FLL core values and skills that they are learning inside FLL as well as outside FLL? Can they provide examples where they have used their core values outside of FLL in their daily life, going to the store, in another sport, at class? Okay, we just want them to be applying what they're learning outside of what they're doing in this program.
I've actually had teams before judging core values that told me that they took the core values verbatim and brought them to the first soccer practice of the year because they felt like the team was having issues with that. So we really like to see stuff like that, and that's how that integration piece plays in.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to move on to the next portion of this rubric. So we're still on core values here. Now this module is analyzing teamwork, okay, and we're looking for the effectiveness. So is there problem in decision-making skills? Are those well-rounded and well-defined, or are they having issues with that? So when they run into an obstacle, can the team overcome it, or do they argue? Okay. We're talking about efficiency. So do they take time to plan out what they're going to do and then execute it, or do they kind of just attack it and see what happens? Okay.
And not just do they take the time, but how do they use the time? Because I have seen a lot of teams that really, really get into the idea of planning out their core values activity, and they spend the entire 5 minutes planning out who's going to do what, and they get nothing done. So that's awesome planning, but it also goes into efficiency. If they don't do anything other than plan, then they're not being efficient with their time.
Exactly. And then finally, we're looking for, do the kids do the work? All right. Now, I love you coaches, but you're here for your kids. Okay, this is a program for the kids. I would love to start an adults FLL group, though, so if you're into that, like, hit me up. But this is for the kids, okay? So we want to make sure that the kids are doing the work. Now, I'm going to make a very important caveat for what I just said, okay? If you have, like, all 4th graders, they're going to need a lot more help than if you have all 8th graders, because they are different ages, okay? We're going to judge those kids based on what age they are. Like, we understand the 4th graders may not know how to type something up and print it. You may have to help them with that. But those 8th graders are more than capable of doing that all by themselves. Okay, so just be mindful of what age you are coaching.
Also, a lot of those project presentations have heavy stuff. Nobody's going to fault a coach for carrying project materials in for the kids.
Yeah.
That's completely okay. If they can't lift it and bring it in, you guys can carry it for them.
So, moving on. Okay, and the last module in core values is gracious professionalism. So gracious professionalism is a term coined by FIRST that is basically just sportsmanship. Okay, so the first portion of that is inclusion. Then we have respect and cooperation. Cooperation is another made-up word by FIRST. It's like cooperation, but it's cooperation. Okay, we didn't misspell it. So we're looking for all of those different categories in your team. All right, do we have any questions on the core values rubric so far? Go ahead, Pam. Yes, so all of you should have printed out one of the coach's handbooks, and there are copies of the rubric inside of the coach's handbooks. And it has it all completed, because this is segmented so that you guys can see it better, because in reality, all of this goes on one page.
This is also a really good time to say this, because we're going to say it 100 million times today. There is a document CVR creates. It is on our website. It is called the Season Standards Manual. It outlines step by step every single thing that you need to do to be in charge of a team in the Central Valley. How we run our events, what you need to bring to events, how you can prepare yourselves, every single thing that you need. It's stripped down a lot from the documents that FIRST provides so that it just focuses on what we do here, and it has a ton of that judging information in it too.
Yes, that handbook should basically be how you run your life according to FLL. It's that important. Okay, so we have finished the core values rubric, so we're going to move on to project, I think is next. Yeah, project.
Yeah, you got it right.
Yay. Yeah. Okay,
Project.
So for project, again, we have the 3 different modules. The first one is research. Okay, so in research, we're looking, did they identify the problem? Can I, as a judge, who did not help you with your project at all, and I'm walking into this knowing nothing, identify your project after the 5-minute session that I have with you. Okay, they're looking for sources of information. Now, did you go to the public library? Did you talk to experts about what your project was? Did you look online at credible sources? Or did you just go to Wikipedia? Okay.
Does everybody see that problem identification up here has that red asterisk on it? All of the required project materials will have a red asterisk next to them in the rubric. So you'll see the problem identification, the team solution, and sharing are all going to have that red asterisk. That's to let you know that if those required components aren't completed, then the project is not valid. So those are the things that you have to have in order for your project to be complete.
Okay, after that we have problem analysis. So how deep did your students go into that problem? Did they just scratch the surface, or did they explore to what depth it impacts the community, the world, the government, whatever the problem was? Okay. And then finally, did they review existing solutions? So earlier I said that they have to come up with an innovative solution, okay? They can't just copy what's already out there. They have to figure out a way to change it, a way to make it better, or something entirely new, okay? And part of that requires seeing what's already out there. There are a lot of solutions for a lot of problems, but sometimes they're not the best solutions. Sometimes they're just solutions that we do out of necessity, because that's how it's been for the past 100 years, and it would be really expensive to change it. But if we could, what would we change? Okay, we want the kids to focus on that. In our next module, it's entitled Innovative Solution. Okay, so again, this is a required section. We have team solution. So can the team explain what their proposed solution to their identified problem was? Okay, then we have innovation. How original is this idea? Did they see what different options were out there? How much innovation was there? And then we have implementation. Did they consider how viable it was? Okay, a few years ago we had a challenge theme that was entitled Food Factor, and they had to look at like different food industry problems. Okay, there's a team that wanted to make a flying milk delivering machine, okay, that would like fly the cows around and you get the milk from the doorstep, you know, like you go out and you milk your cow and then it flies away, okay? Great innovation. I'm not sure that the cows would like flying around house to house to drop off the milk, okay? I don't know how practical that was. So we want to make sure that the kids are seeing how real is this solution that I've come up with? How viable is it? What's it going to cost me? How am I going to do it? What things am I going to have to do in order to get this done? Okay, we want them to think of very, very viable solutions too.
This next section, it deals completely with what happens in the project judging session.
So it's presentation. So again, we have another important module is sharing. So to which degree did the team share? Okay, there's a big difference between sharing with just your family or going out to the community and finding people who your solution could potentially help and sharing it with them. Okay, because one is significantly easier than the other. We want to make sure that these kids are going out into the community, and that's partially to develop their public speaking and interpersonal skills, but also because if they have a really good solution, sometimes there's people out there that are crazy enough to fund a whole bunch of fourth graders with their brilliant idea. Okay, just this past year, we had one of our FLL teams that won at the championship level. They got funded for, I think it was like $50,000 by a local company for their solution. It was about water management. Okay, now how rare is that? But if they hadn't gone out into the community, that wouldn't have happened. But it did. Okay? So just go out into the community. Even if you're like, I don't know if we have time, make time. Make sure that they go out into the community and are sharing their solutions. Lastly, we have presentation effectiveness. This is just the method through which they deliver their material. They have to come up with a presentation. Some kids do a skit. Sometimes they do like an actual like printed out board and they present off of it. Just try to keep your presentation as technologically free as possible because you get a table and that's it. That's all we provide because event to event kind of varies. So if there's not an outlet at the event, you don't get an outlet. So if you had a projector that was going to blow all of the judges' minds away, I am sorry, but sometimes we don't have outlets to give to you guys. So make sure that you are planning your presentation as simplified as possible would be my best advice to you.
Even if the technology is available, I would stray away from it. In a 5-minute high-stress presentation, there's a lot of room for Murphy's Law to happen. If a kid is, even if we have the power strip set out in an ideal situation, if you have a stressed out fourth grader trying to run in, set up a projector, and then go in 10 seconds, something is going to go wrong. It's much easier if you can just rely on physical materials that you can bring with you so that there's nothing on the technological side that can go wrong to ruin your project presentation because it's the only shot that you get to do it at the event.
Yeah, you get one shot and you get 5 minutes. You do not get 5 minutes and 1 second. You get 5 minutes. So as little setup as possible would be phenomenal. Just trust us on that. Okay, next we have the robot design rubrics. Okay, so the first module covers mechanical design. This covers durability, mechanical efficiency, and mechanization. So is your robot well built or does it fall apart after each mission? Because having to do repairs after each run, kind of not ideal. Mechanical efficiency. Now, some people get really complex and use a push button to drive a lever that fires a pulley that shoots a cannon that pulls the ring or whatever. But you could have also just done one arm that pulled the ring instead of all of the different steps. Be as efficient as possible. Now, your kids will probably do that anyway because chances are you do not have all of the expensive Lego random customized pieces. So they'll probably do that anyway, but like if there's a simpler way to do that, push your kids to simplify their designs. It is super simple to add more gears and add more arms and add more levers. It is really hard to take back and simplify that design. But by simplifying that design, you will have a more durable design. You will have something that's easier to fix, easier to manipulate, and better for your kids. It'll be a design challenge. Okay, so force them to kind of streamline. Always ask them, is there a simpler way that you can do that? Is there an easier way that you can do that? Okay. And then finally, mechanization. This is the robot's ability to move when tasked to move. So if we are telling it, if your code tells it to go in a straight line, turn, and then grab something, how reliably can it do that? How easily can it do that?
It's not a good mark of robot design if there's a lever that you have to push, a good team can precisely push it exactly where it needs to be, back away, and go back to base. That's not the same level of mechanization as a team that's slamming into it full speed and then grinding the motors a bunch of times and then backing away. Yeah. And the judges are looking for that.
All right, the next module in robot design is programming. Okay, so the programming quality. So does the program do what it's designed to do, or does it have a whole bunch of blocks that aren't really there for a specific reason? You know, we're looking for very streamlined programs that get the job done consistently. Program efficiency. So are they able to do that task over and over and over again with little variation? And then finally, we're looking for automation and navigation. This is where your sensors come in handy. The more sensors that you use, the better, because it means that your robot will be able to have checkpoints. If there's a line on the ground, sometimes your robot, because remember, we're not dealing with high-tech robots here. It's Lego. They're toys. They're toys for kids. They're not going to go exactly 2 centimeters and not a little bit over. They're going to go about 2 centimeters. So you have to remember that. Using those sensors will help get you back on track if you do happen to go off a little bit. Yeah? Okay, and the last section in robot design is strategy and innovation. Okay, so the design process. How was it developed for your team? Did they just come across it? Did they plan extensively? Did they do research on different mechanisms? Did they see like, oh, well, my dad drives this tractor and it kind of has like a lift mechanism that might be helpful. Let's try to copy that. We just want to see how they designed it, how they came up with these ideas. Their mission strategy. Behind every good play is a good strategy, okay? Strategy is the most important thing in every aspect of life, okay? So we want to make sure that your team had a clearly thought out plan and why they came up with that plan of how they were going to do the missions. Sometimes it works that you just do different missions because you picked them and it just works out for you. But it'll work out more if you figure out which models get you the most points and then figure out a system based off of that. Okay, and then lastly, innovation. We want the kids to be creative. That's part of the fun. So just make sure that they're having fun creating different features and mechanisms and programs, you know, just fun.
And I just wanted to add, there is one really, 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 really good way to get a grasp of how FLL judging works and how the deliberation process works and all that stuff, and that is to go to an event and be a judge. So I just want to throw that out there, especially if you think your team is gonna go to the later qualifier. Oh, did you want to say something? Oh, okay. But I just wanted to say, if your team, especially if you're at a later qualifier, volunteer to judge at one of the earlier events that we have. It will give you a huge perspective on what judges are looking for, how the process works, what the teams, what's happening on the other side of that table. So I just want to encourage everybody to volunteer as a judge at a different event, just so you can get that extra perspective.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. So if your kids came up with a sketch, keep that. Put it in a binder. Okay. In the programming, there is an option to add comments. Make sure that the programming is commented everything. That'll help your kids, because when they program something like 4 weeks ago and then they're at a competition and they're like, I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, I don't know what I was thinking when I did this. Or maybe the kid is sick that wrote the program. If it's commented, you can kind of figure out what the chain of thought was. But if it's not commented, you're kind of just having to figure it out block by block. So make sure that the comments are in the code, and when you print it out, the comments will be printed out too. Like, print out your code, make sure that that's in a binder. Take pictures of what they designed or the kids designing. You know, just document it as you go. As engineers, we have to keep a design notebook for every project that we do. And we do that just because liability. So if something goes wrong with a machine, we have to go through our notes and present, well, here are my calculations that I did, you know. So that, when you're designing a bridge, you don't just go, I just guessed the numbers. So if they do any type of calculation like that, just keep record of it. And then take it with you in a binder. That would be my suggestion for that. Go ahead. So the rules for adding stuff to the kit is it has to be a Lego item. Now, I know it's super tempting to use that rubber band that you got at Office Depot, but that's grounds for disqualification. because it's a Lego program, they're very strict on using Lego items. Anything Lego. Lego rubber bands, Lego sells string, Lego sells chains, they sell gears, anything Lego. And it doesn't have to be the Lego kits that are the educational kits. If you find a Lego Batman kit and the kids want to put the Batman figurine on there, he's a Lego character. That's fine. That's fine. But it has to be Lego. Yeah. Thank you, Pam. So the Technic kits are considered Lego elements. So those are fair game. Those are fair game. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Go ahead. Right. So her question pertains to the tables that are set up in the robot judging, in the robot design judging. So when you get to robot design, there will be a table. It will be set up with all of the models that are dual locked to the mat. Okay. There will not be like the free floating elements. Like sometimes there are, but sometimes they are not, because the kits that are used for robot design judging are just the kits that are our spares. So like if something happens to the competition set, the first thing that we take from is the robot design judging. So if there is any element that you need in specific from the kit that you need to make sure that it's there, bring a copy with you, okay? That's true for basically anything. But if the table is not set up, I mean, the judges try to set it up as close to possible, but your kids can set it up. They work with the tables. They can move it around, okay? Because sometimes, like, the judges are rushing. They have, like, literally, like, 5 minutes between when they see your team and when they see the next team. So sometimes it's kind of a frantic thing, because in that time they have to take notes. They have to organize their thoughts. They have to put, like, the rankings and redo that, and then they have to set up the table again. So just tell your kids that if it's not set up correctly, just move it around. Set it up however it's supposed to be set up, and then continue going. Don't let that be a deterrent. Don't like, let them know it's okay to move the table around. Use that time for them to show what the robot is going to do. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry that you had that experience. I mean, our judges do try to set up the tables how it's supposed to be, but I mean, also the kids need to do, if it's set up wrong, just do a quick glance over. I know sometimes it's hard and there's not a lot of time, but just tell your kids to do a quick glance over. I mean, at most there's like 10 kids on the team. 2 of them could be setting up the robot, and 2 of them could be like making sure that every model is set up correctly. There are ways around that. As far as the judges, they know that not everything goes right. Sometimes there's table variations. I mean, they do look at the scores that your teams are getting, 'cause sometimes, like, I don't know, sometimes you just have a really bad session and you're just like, oh, these kids are just off. Maybe they're nervous and they're lining it up an inch over from where they're supposed to do it. And you as a coach, you can't tell them, like, hey, move it over a little bit, because it's a judging session. You're not allowed to talk. So just know that we really try to make sure that it is as in-depth as possible. I mean, if a team does like really well in judging, or if they do really poorly in judging, the judges do ask what the different ranks are. So, I mean, they do have access to your robot scores, and if they see that you're doing really well and they don't happen to see that in your session, they ask questions. Most of them are like very, very, very on top of it, and by most of them, I mean like 99.999%. Okay, so we do try to make sure that we are getting as well of a view of your team as possible. Okay, are there any other questions? Go ahead. Yeah, so if somebody who is younger than the age limitation for FLL is on your team, you are not eligible for awards. Now, what we do have other teams doing is, like, if you have like a little brother who wants to be on the team, they can be part of your team unofficially as a supporter. They just cannot be registered as part of your team, and they cannot accompany your team to the table for the competition or in the judging sessions. Yes, FLL covers 6 to, I believe, 8, and yes, and then FLL covers 9 to 14. So they have to be within that age range in order to be. FLL is for 9 to 14-year-olds. Yeah. Yeah. There's different programs in first. So it was probably a generic, like, we have programs for 6 to 18-year-olds, not a specific for FLL. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to help with your team on the day of the tournament, but I mean, there's no stopping him from, like, if all of your team is there together, like, say, do you have an older son that would have a team or a daughter that would have a team? Oh, okay, well then. I do not personally control the age groups, so I mean for junior FLL the age groups, like, it's 6 to 8, and they have programming for that, and it actually does get pretty complex with the We Do system. It's just that the We Do system is a little bit different. It runs off of a laptop. It doesn't have like a computer type Lego brick that runs the stuff. It just runs off of a laptop, and the programming is like, I think it's pretty similar. It's the same drag and drop programming. So I mean, he would probably excel with the WIDA system as well. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Then I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So again, just to reiterate, the judging philosophy, it's subjective rather than objective. There are no scores. No scores. Okay. It is all based on what we see out of your team during the sessions and throughout the day. Okay. And it's based on, oh, I just said that. And after we see all of the teams, the judges get together and they have a deliberation where they talk about the different teams and they go to war, trying to fight for the teams that they saw. Okay, now I say this because a lot of like the coaches are like, well, how does the decision get made? Okay, the judges in their rooms will like rank who they saw, and then they meet with the other judges and they talk about who they saw and who was a good team, who was a bad team. Well, not necessarily a bad team. We don't really get a lot of bad teams. We get teams that are good, and then we get teams that are great. And that's how the decision is made. We talk it out. We cross-reference each other. We go, okay, well, I saw this. Did you see this too, or did you see something else out of this team? So it's a very extensive process. It takes an enormous amount of time and an enormous amount of effort, and the judges get very, very, very invested in the teams that they saw and trying to get the best for their teams. So everybody gets lobbied for very, very fairly. Oh, this is not the updated one. Okay. Okay. I emailed an updated one, and he did not get the updated one. Okay. All right. Well, it was just going in more to the deliberation process. So now you're not allowed to ask any questions about your specific deliberation process. So if you see any of the judges and you go, hey, how did deliberations go? How did my team do? What can they change? What can they improve upon? They can't tell you anything. Sorry. They have to sign a gag order, because what we don't want is like a judge to go and say like, yeah, man, Susie was was like all up against your team. She just did not want you to advance, because that doesn't happen, right? And a lot of the coaches, like if you ask questions from a judge and they say something and the intention is not exactly correct, it gets interpreted a different way, and then you go and tell somebody else and it gets interpreted a different way, and then like 5 people later, I get an email back going, you said that my team, like, hit your judge and attacked him with a broom, and when in reality, like, the kid probably knocked over a broom or something. So, like, it just escalates. So we just tell, as a basic thing, our judges can't share anything with you. I'm sorry. So if you want to figure out how to best prepare your kids for judging, sign up as a judge, because then I can show you. Then I can show you what we're looking for. Okay? So that is my best advice for you, okay? I had a sheet for tips and tricks, okay? So I will just tell you this right now, and there will not be anything behind me. So there's a couple things that you need to know as rookie judges, okay? In all judging sessions, you are not allowed to speak, okay? The role of the child is reversed. You are to be seen and not heard, okay? You can't touch the robot, you can't talk, you can't ask questions, you can't tell them that they should speak louder, you can't do anything other than smile and nod, okay? Now, sometimes the judges or the coaches like to get creative, and they do like a cool like dance, right? Where they're like, oh, remember to do this, like they give them hand signals. We know what you're doing, okay? We know that you're not doing aerobics, okay? So just sit there very quietly, okay? Now, if your kids are nervous, this is what you can give them. Okay, so that's all you can do, okay? You're going to be sitting probably by the door, okay? Inside of the actual judging sessions, only the people that have coach badges are allowed. If your coach badge has anything modified on it, so if it has like a name crossed out or a number crossed out with a Sharpie or whatever, you will not be allowed in. And that's just for the safety of the kids, because all of the coaches have to be background checked, and they get a whole, like, to see if there's priors, and I'm not a cop, I don't know what they do, but they do a very extensive background check. And we want to make sure that your kids are with those people, because we want to make sure that they are safe. So if the name is crossed out or something, the judges are instructed to not let you guys in. Only the 2 coaches or the 1 coach, whoever has the badge, can go in with your kids. Can't talk, can't touch anything, can't do nothing like that. Your kids have the 10 minutes to do everything. So for project, it starts as soon as that door opens. Your kids' time is running, okay? So make sure that if your kids are going to go in for project and they have to set something up, make sure that you have somebody talking while they're doing the setup work. And then that person should stop as soon as they're done with the setup work and somebody else can take over. Just make sure that you're preparing them to use their time wisely. Now, as I said, the time starts as soon as that door opens. So if if the coaches walk in first, then that time is going while your kids have less time to talk, because while you were getting in and then all of your kids get in, just prepare them, send your kids in first, have them talking as they're going, especially for project. For project, I am stressing that a million times. Because project is the time where everybody's like, oh, I ran out of time, my team suffered because they didn't have enough time to talk. You have 5 minutes. That's all I can give you. That's all I can give you. I wish I could give everybody an hour, but then we would be here until like Tuesday after the competition. We don't want that. I'm sorry. So you have 5 minutes. After the tournament, you will have a copy of the rubric sent out to you. It usually goes out in Team Connect. On that, there are comments from the judges. I highly recommend that you read those, because that basically tells you what you need to improve upon and what you did well and should repeat. It's super important. What else? All of your judging sessions are back to back to back. So make sure that you bring everything that you will ever need, plus whatever else that you think you might not need, with you, okay? Bring your robot, bring all of your project materials, bring a backup cable, bring your mother-in-law, bring your dog, bring everything that you could ever need. And even if you don't think you'll need it, just bring it, because if something happens and then it turns out you need it, it will take a long time to get all the way across campus to where the pits are and come back, and that might throw your kids off. So just be over-prepared. Are there any questions about judging in general? No. No. Go ahead. Mhm. So the core value activity, it changes from event to event, and we specifically design it so that it is nothing like the one that was at the previous event. The kids do not know what it is beforehand, and we instruct teams to not tell anybody what they did in that session, just to keep it fair so that nobody can plan ahead of time. And we will provide all of the materials as well as an instruction sheet. What happens is the judge will come in, and we keep it the same for everybody so that it's very, very, very fair. They will walk in, the judge will say the same scripted out directions and hand them a sheet of the printed directions with the materials. This will happen for every single team. Then your team will go to the table or wherever they're doing their teamwork activity, and they will do it for 5 minutes while the judge is there watching. The judge should be very quiet and not really interacting with your kids. Your kids are free to ask clarifying questions of the judge. That is fine. And then after the 5 minutes, they will call the timer and then ask your kids questions about what they did and their core values. Yeah? Cool. Any other questions? No? So you guys are all going to kill it in judging? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, cool. Well, then if there are no other questions, I will release you from your chairs. You can walk around. You can get a snack. I think we have stuff over there.